to DepEd TV. It's a brand new day, a brand new chance to learn. I am Ma'am Berry, and I am very excited to bring you today's lesson. So set your mind, ready your heart, and brace yourselves as we explore the world of oral communication. Oral communication is a subject for senior high school students which aims to develop your listening and speaking skills and introduce strategies for effective communication in various situations. In this subject, you will be able to understand the nature and elements of communication, to value its functions, to recognize the importance of understanding speech context, speech style, speech act, and communicative strategy in order to achieve communicative competence and to realize the rigors of crafting one's speech. Learning about oral communication is essential so you can demonstrate the effective use of communicative strategies in a variety of speech situations and deliver various speeches proficiently. For this episode, we will talk about the nature and process of communication. What is communication? What are its elements? And how does the process of communication work? Let's figure them out all together. Are you ready? Let's get the ball rolling. Let's start by watching this short clip. Did you understand the message conveyed in the video? Do you know what this means? I know you do, because that is the power of communication. It allows us to send and receive a message using various forms. Anyone can simply nod his head, and we would already know he is agreeing. Don't you agree? I could ask you a question, call your name, or say, "Psst," and you would know right ahead that I want to talk to you. We, humans, are social beings and we live to interact regularly with others. Back in the history of mankind, the early man could not speak as you do today. But they were able to communicate with the use of various techniques such as symbols, gestures, sounds, drawings, or sign languages. Over the years, communication has also advanced. It has developed side by side with technology. In the 21st century, we can send text messages, call someone's phone, take video calls, and send chat messages. These allow us to communicate easier with people, no matter the distance. Isn't communication just very convenient for all of us? I know, right? But communication is not just convenient. It's also imperative. Take a look at these comic strips.
Hi, I'm Gary. Can I sit here?
Yes.
By the way, what's your name? I don't know anyone here yet. I just transferred from the province. What about you? Are you new here? Or have you been here since grade 7? This school is so big and buildings are tall. I can't wait for the rest of the school year.
I'm sorry. Who are you?
I'm Gary. Remember?
What happened there? Can we call that a successful communication? That's right, we can't. Ben only responded to the first question. He glanced at Gary but did not listen to what he said at all. In the beginning of the conversation, Gary introduced himself, but Ben did not even remember his name at the end. This only goes to show that without speaking, listening, and understanding, we will never be able to understand each other. Speaking, listening, and understanding are key factors to successful communication. Because communication is a two-way process. It's a cycle by means of sharing and transferring messages, information, ideas, or emotions from one person to another. This connects people and helps build harmonious relationships. We must learn to speak to other people with courtesy and listen to what they say respectfully. As mentioned earlier, communication comes in various forms. It may be expressed through written words or symbols, spoken words, or even through actions. Written words or symbols in communication are messages which are written, typed, or printed. Some examples of this are letters, text messages, emails, chat messages, street signs, billboard signs, and many more. Spoken words, on the other hand, are those which are delivered orally. Yes, these are sounds produced using our vocal tract. Written and spoken words are what we call verbal communication because of the use of letters and words. Lastly, actions are expressed through movement of the body parts. Your gestures, posture, facial expression, and hand signals express a message that may be interpreted by the person you're talking to. This is what we call nonverbal communication. It is communicating without the use of words, just actions. To better understand, let's take a look at this picture. How is communication expressed? Is the successful communication process achieved in this situation? That is correct. Communication do exist when you're watching a television, much like what we're doing right now. I am trying to communicate the lesson to you, and as you listen and understand, you are making this process of communication successful. You are doing great. Let's have one last picture. Will this situation lead to a successful communication process? That is spot on. It will definitely lead to successful communication. Having a conversation with someone else is the sole definition of communication. So now you see, communication exists in all kinds of situations. And a communication process will not be deemed successful without the presence of its basic elements. There are 5 basic elements of communication. These are sender, receiver, message, channel, and feedback. Let's go over each element one by one. The sender, also called the speaker, is the source of message, information, idea, or emotion. It could be you or the person who is talking to you. The receiver, on the other hand, is the recipient of the message or the intended audience of the sender. It could also be you or the person you are talking to. In our current state, you are the receiver and I am the sender. The third element is the message. It contains information, ideas, opinions, thoughts, and emotions. It is basically what the sender wants to say to the receiver. Channel is the medium or the means of communication that is used to deliver the message. Is the message delivered through speaking, writing, letters, television, or radio? These are just few examples of the different channels that we can use to deliver our message. The last element is feedback. It refers to the reactions, responses, or information provided by the receiver. This is the response of the audience you are talking to. But just a daily reminder, no response is also a response. Now the big question is, how did these elements become the building blocks of communication? Let me show you through this activity. Let's figure it out through this diagram. A diagram is now flashed on your screen. There are 5 blank boxes in the diagram. Label the boxes with the 5 basic elements of communication. Where do you think should each one be placed? Let's answer it together. On the box in the upper left corner, the label should be the sender. Without the sender, the process of communication will not begin. The process starts when the sender encodes through a channel. Encoding through a channel is constructing your message in your mind through writing, through digital platforms, or through your preferred media. Once encoding is done, the message is now ready to be transmitted to the receiver. After the receiver receives the message, the next step is to decode. Decoding is reading or listening and understanding the message given by the sender. When decoding has been achieved, the feedback will now be given by the receiver to the sender, and the cycle goes on. Through this process, we can conclude that communication is truly systematic. But wait, just a dear reminder, barriers to communication may sometimes block the transmission of the message, thereby creating misunderstandings. So watch out for these barriers. My dear students, we have finally discussed what communication is, what its elements are, and how its process works. Now, why do we communicate? Communication serves many purposes. We always say things to people for a reason. We inform, clarify, promote, advise, teach, affirm, criticize, question, express, persuade, reveal, deny, and many more. In the coming episodes, we will dig deeper to the functions of communication. But for now, I want you to open your module on page 6 and do the What's More activity. In this activity, you have to think of communication transactions in your daily lives. On a sheet of paper, make a chart with 3 rows and 3 columns. In the first column, write down 2 situations where communication takes place. Then, in the second column, indicate the result of the communication transaction, as well as whether it was successful or not by writing the elements that made it so. And lastly, on the third column, specify its function. Allow me to show you an example. In the first column, the situation is, when I was 12, my father told me that I am in charge of cooking rice for lunch every day whenever I am available. One time, I forgot to cook rice because I got busy with my assignment. As a result, we did not have rice to eat. My father reminded me about the task assigned to me. In the second column, the result of the communication transaction is, the message was clear that I need to perform my task. At first, the communication was successful. I thought the other family members would do my task because I was doing other things. My fault there was that I failed to communicate to them that I was busy doing my assignment. Had I communicated this earlier, we would have rice to eat. Lastly, in the third column, the functions of communication are to inform and to clarify. Try to recall many situations that occur daily from the time you are about to sleep at night. Write them down and analyze the results and functions of your communication transactions. In that activity, you have to think of communication transactions in your daily life. Write down situations where communication takes place. Then, indicate the result of the communication transaction and tell whether it is successful or not by writing the elements that made it so and specify its functions on the third column. An example is given to you on the first row of the table. That's great! I know you have incorporated your daily life situations in that activity. Now it's time for output making. You are going to need the following materials: a short bond paper, art or drawing materials, and cut out pictures. Your task is to create a comic strip showing how you would communicate to your community the advantages of following health protocols and guidelines amidst COVID-19 pandemic in your municipality or province. You may cut out pictures of people or authorities to depict your character, but be sure to write your own original scripts and texts. Were you able to understand the introduction to communication? I hope you do, because it's time for a short quiz. Listen and read each item carefully. Then choose the letter that corresponds to your answer. Write them down on a sheet of paper. Let's begin. Number 1. It is the exchange of thoughts, messages, or information through speech signals, written words, or behavior. A. Message. B. Language. C. Feedback. Or D. Communication. Number 2. These are considered forms of communication except A. Eating dinner. B. Talking clearly. C. Looking bored. Or D. Sending emails. Number 3. This body language shows that one is actively listening. A. Looking out of the window. B. Staring blankly at the speaker. C. Nodding and making eye contact. Or D. Nodding with eyes looking at the distance. Number 4. It is shown when there is an understanding in the communication except A. Each party has different languages. B. Each party is able to provide feedback. C. Each gets a chance to be the sender and the receiver. Or D. Each party is able to say what they want without the other person interrupting. Number 5. It is the content of the communication situation. A. Noise. B. Jargon. C. Media. Or D. Message. Number 6. This communication type is characterized by a certain look or gaze. A. Oral communication. B. Verbal communication. C. Written communication. Or D. Nonverbal communication. Number 7. It is the definition of communication except A. Communication involves a transaction. B. Communication is done only through speaking with others. C. Communication is sharing of ideas among a group of people. Or D. Communication is a transfer of messages from one person to another. Number 8. This is the best way to continue communication. A. Active listening. B. Not interrupting. C. Asking questions. Or D. Making good eye contact. Number 9. It is an indication that communication really takes place. A. When the message enters the channel. B. when the receiver decodes the message? C. When the sender transmits the message? D. When the message is encoded by the receiver. Number 10. This is essential to an effective communication. A. A linear process. B. A two-way process. C. A three-way process. Or D. Both a one-way and a two-way process. Are you done answering? Let's check your answers. Make sure to observe honesty while checking your own paper. Let's start. Number 1. It is the exchange of thoughts, messages, or information through speech, signals, written words, or behavior. The answer is letter D, communication. Communication is a two-way process, a cycle, by means of sharing and transferring messages, information, ideas, or emotions from one person to another. Number 2. These are considered forms of communication except letter A, eating dinner. Talking clearly, looking bored, sending emails are examples of the three various forms of communication, which are spoken words, written words, and actions which convey meaning. However, eating dinner is an act done in order to keep one's body healthy. Number 3. This body language shows that one is listening. The answer is letter C, nodding and making eye contact. Nodding means agreeing, and this can be assured when the receiver is making eye contact to the speaker, thus proving that the receiver actively listens to the speaker. Number 4. It is shown when there is an understanding in the communication except letter A. Each party has different languages. Having different languages may become a barrier to communication, which may lead to misunderstanding or miscommunication. Number 5. It is the content of the communication situation. The answer is letter D, message. The message contains ideas, information, thoughts, emotions, or opinions of the sender and receiver. Basically, this is what's being talked about in the communication situation. Number 6. This communication type is characterized by a certain look or gaze. The answer is letter D, nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication pertains to actions or movements of any body parts that provide meaning. Number 7. It is the definition of communication except letter B. Communication is done only through speaking with others. Communication comes in various forms and not only through speaking. It can be done through writing or acting. Number 8. This is the best way to continue communication. The best answer is letter A, active listening. Active listening ensures a successful communication process. With this, the decoding will be achieved and the cycle will go on. Number 9. It is an indication that communication really takes place. The answer is letter B, when the receiver decodes the message. When the receiver decodes the message, a sensible feedback can be given, and the process of communication will go on. Number 10, last number. This is essential to an effective communication. The answer is letter B, a two-way process. Communication is a cycle. Its success cannot be assured without the sender and the receiver both actively participating in a communication situation. How well did you do? If you were able to get all the answers correctly, you did a terrific job. And if you didn't, worry not, because there's always a next time. Before we end this episode, Were you able to remember the day reminder for today? If so, do post on your Facebook the day reminder I mentioned in our lesson earlier. Do not forget to put hashtag day reminder and the statement on your post. On our next episode, we will get to know the different models of communication that we use as a pattern or guide when communicating. Once again, this is Ma'am Derry bringing you lessons on communication and leaving you with a day reminder: don't just speak with your mind, speak with your heart. Ciao!